Okay, chat. No, you guys are not my chat. You are now. I'm gonna make some major assumptions for this lecture. One, you know how set builder notation works. If you don't, it's in the modules. Please do that. Get real comfortable with it. And two, you know how actually, yeah, no, that's it. Actually, that's it. So some smaller assumptions, I suppose, are that you know how interval notation works, and how to graph intervals and stuff like that. Okay, let's do a quick refresher, but uncomplete. All right, there we go. I'll just trim that out. It's fine. Okay, so that's what we're working off of. All right. So for this lecture, we'll be talking about inequalities, how do they behave, all that good stuff. Okay. So in particular, we're talking about one variable inequalities. So it's just like a one variable equation, except they're not equal. They're unequal, if you will. Right? So for example, let's say you have x is less than or equal to 7, right? As a refresher, this can be written as x such that x is less than or equal to 7. It can be drawn as, let's put 7 over here, 7, and then actually I'll color it in a slightly different color. And this is inclusive, right, because of this little bar here, less than or equal to 7. Okay, so big picture, you should know, 1, what this means, and all the relevant symbols, so like greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. If you were feeling really fancy, not equal, not less than, which means greater than or equal to, not greater than, which means less than or equal to, not less than or equal to, not greater than or equal to. Should be able to flip-flop them between them comfortably. I don't use these very often, but you should know what they mean when you see them, okay? And absolutely this, all right? You should know how to read this, and you should absolutely know how to read and graph this, okay? So, let's review interval notation as well, right? For interval notation, this will be written as x is less than or equal to 7, so negative infinity to 7 inclusive. You should know what this means, you should know what this means, you should know the difference, and you should know what to use for the positive and negative infinities. Okay? So big picture, you should, 1, know inequality notation, 2, set builder, 3, graph, 4, interval, and you should be able to confidently switch back and forth between all 4 of them, okay? In fact, I'm gonna do an example from the textbook. Woo! So that's our example over here. She's unnecessarily large, I think. There we go. So let's take a look at question number 12. Number 12 looks nice. So for number 12, we have, let's see, they want us to not only solve the inequality and graph the solution, we also want it in set builder and interval. Okay, we got this. Easy money, okay? All right. So we have 3y plus 11 is greater than 5. We can treat this exactly like an equation, okay? Subtract 11 from both sides. 3y is greater than negative 6. If you don't know how I got negative 6 from 5 minus 11, I strongly recommend you revisit the prereqs, okay? And then you divide both sides by 3, positive 3. Y is greater than negative 2. Okay. So inequality is solved, right? Let's put this into a graph. So y has to be greater than negative 2. Let's put negative 2 right here. Y is bigger than that. Y is not equal to that. So we want open circle. There you go. And then we also want this as set builder. So we're going to write this guy as, oops, here we go. I'm going to write this guy as the set y such that y is greater than negative 2. And they want it as an interval. And this interval will be y is bigger than negative 2. So open circle on the negative 2, yeah? So it matches this guy. I want to put an infinity over there. I forget sometimes. And it's bigger, so all things bigger, all the way up to positive infinity. And you're done. Easy. Okay, now let's do something a little bit harder. Let's do number 13, okay? Again, same idea. Number 13, you have negative 2x minus 5 is less than or equal to negative 25. You add positive 5 to both sides. Negative 2x is less than or equal to negative 20. You divide by negative 2, and note, when you divide by a negative, you swap the sign. Lots of different ways to think about this. Is greater than or equal to 10. And why is that? Well, the easiest way to think about this is instead of dividing by a negative, you add to both sides, right? So you can actually see this as negative 2x is less than or equal to negative 20. You add 2x to both sides, right? That gives you 0 is less than or equal to negative 20 plus 2x, right? And then we we add positive 20 to both sides, cancel them out, to cancel this guy out, right? And that leaves you with 20 is greater than or equal to 2x. And then you divide by a normal standard positive 2, and that gives you 10 is less than or equal to x. Okay? So, I think the most intuitive way of thinking about it is that when you're dividing by a negative, you are essentially doing the adding subtracting thing, which automatically swaps the signs, and your x is on the other side, right? Another way to think about it is that when you're dividing by a negative, you're inverting the relationship. And I think that's less intuitive, so don't do that if that confuses you. Okay? There's a very good chance I will quiz you on dividing by negatives for inequalities, and you will have to explain me why. Okay? So, putting that out there. Okay, now it's time we graph it. So if we were to graph this guy, it'll be, let's see. Again, these two are the same, right? X is greater than or equal to 10. It's the same saying 10 is less than or equal to x. It's the same thing. Some of you guys, when you guys read this, you write x and then you squiggle this way and you say 10. Don't do that. X is your variable, okay? Okay. So you want your 10 here. You want x to be bigger than or also equal to. So this is equal to, this is bigger than. Okay, put the infinity here. Yeah, for a set builder, it's pretty easy. You just say x such that x is greater than or equal to 10. Nothing crazy. And then for interval, you want close circle on the 10, positive infinity, close. Basically, a good way to check your sanity is to make sure this matches with this, right? And this matches with this. And we'll talk a little bit more about answers that don't go off to infinity in a bit. Okay. Let's do, yeah, let's do a fun fraction one. A fun fraction in parentheses one, okay? And then we can, yeah, let's do a fun fraction in parentheses guy. Let's do number 32, okay? From now on, for these problems, I'm only going to solve the inequality. It's going to be your job to do the set builder, interval, all that good stuff, okay? It gets kind of repetitive and boring for me and you guys to watch and do, all right? So for number 32, you have 1 plus 4b minus 2 is less than 2b minus 5 plus 4. Again, treat this like an inequality for now before you start doing weird sign swapping, right? If this were a normal equality, we just PEMDAS. Okay. Nothing happens to the 1, you distribute the 4, 4b minus 8, less than, do the same over here. That gives 2b minus 10 plus 4. Let's combine some like terms. 4b can stay, right? We're just going to combine terms on one side first and then the other, and then we separate, right? Negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7. 2b can stay. Negative 10 plus 4 is negative 6, right? Now we can start isolating the b's on one side and the numbers on the other, okay? We subtract 2b from both sides. That leaves us 2b on the left. 7 is less than negative 6. And then you're like, oh, well, what do we do now? You add the 7 to the 6. 2b is less than, negative 6 plus 7 is 1. B is less than 1/2. Okay, and I did not goof it up. Great. And then you guys can graph and, do as one does. Okay? That's it. That's inequalities. They're pretty chilled, pretty straightforward. Yeah. If you guys want, we can do a fraction one really quick. Let's do number 36. Negative 2/5 a minus 3 is greater than 5. You can add 3 to both sides, so negative 2/5 a is greater than 8. Multiply by 5 to cancel out this 1/5. Negative 2a is greater than 40. Divided by negative 2, which means a is less than negative 20. If you're having a hard time following how I got this from this, please revisit the prereqs. And that's it.